Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. The topic for today's webinar is how smart e-loans can make residential energy upgrades more accessible. This webinar is being presented by the Clean Energy States Alliance, also known as CESA. Before I pass it over to our excellent panel of speakers today, I'd like to go over a few quick webinar logistics. All of our attendees for this webinar are in listen-only mode. You have a couple of options to join the audio portion of today's webinar. You can call in via telephone, or you can connect via computer, mic, and speakers. If you'd like to minimize your webinar console so that you can view the presentation full screen, you can click on the orange arrow that you see circled on the slide, and you can also click on that arrow to expand the webinar console. And one of the things you might like to do with your webinar console is to submit questions and comments. We will be saving about 15 minutes at the end of our presentations for a Q&A with the audience, and we'll get to as many questions as we can. To make sure that we get to your question, I'd recommend typing it in early. Don't wait until the very end. A final note, this webinar is being recorded. We will send you a copy of the webinar recording and a PDF of all of the webinar slides within about 24 hours. And we'll also post all of the webinar materials on CESA's website at cesa.org/webinars. And that's a good web address to know because it's also where we post information about all of our upcoming and archived webinars. So with that, I'd like to now pass it over to our moderator for today's webinar, Nate Hausman. Nate is a project director here at the Clean Energy States Alliance, and he is going to get us started.
Thanks, Samantha, and welcome everyone. Sure enough, I'm Nate Hausman. I am a project director at the Clean Energy States Alliance, or CESA, and I mostly focus on solar policy. So before we get underway, just a quick note about the Clean Energy States Alliance. We're a national nonprofit coalition of state energy organizations working together to advance the rapid expansion of clean energy technologies and bring the benefits of clean energy to all. You can see our members on the slide in front of you. And today's webinar is called How Smart E-Loans Can Make Residential Energy Upgrades More Accessible. We've got two presenters today, Neda Arabshahi and Madeline Priest. I'll introduce both now, and then I'll turn it over to them for their presentations. So first up will be Neda Arabshahi. Neda is Director of the Inclusiv Center for Resiliency and Clean Energy. In this capacity, Neda is working to build a network of credit unions committed to designing and scaling solutions to climate change with the goal of promoting affordable and sustainable energy for all. Neda has over 17 years experience in clean energy and the sustainability space. She served as Chief Operating Officer at the energy startups Radiator Labs and Block Power, where she helped to create financing and access to clean energy and energy efficiency retrofits for low and moderate income building owners. Prior to those roles, she led the energy program at the Clinton Global Initiative. Neda holds dual MBA and Masters of Environmental Science degrees from Yale University. And the next speaker will be Madeline Priest. Madeline is the Senior Manager of Market Engagement for Inclusive Prosperity Capital, or IPC, responsible for supporting developers, program partners, and other stakeholders to ensure they have the resources they need to run successful energy finance programs. Previously, Madeline was responsible for residential single-family financing programs at the Connecticut Green Bank, including SMARTE loan and the Solar for All program. Madeline has drawn on her years as a community organizer, including a multi-town energy efficiency program to design outreach and engagement strategies deployed to hundreds of contractors across the full spectrum of clean energy trades and scores of community organizations and lenders. Madeline holds certificates as an on-envelope professional and building analyst professional with the Building Performance Institute. So with that out of the way, I'll pass the platform over to you, Neda. It's all yours.
Great, thank you so much, and welcome everyone. I will share a bit about our work at Inclusiv, and just to put everything in context, Inclusiv and Inclusive Prosperity Capital, two separate organizations with similar names, have been working in close partnership. As you can see here, our goals and objectives line up very closely. Inclusive Prosperity Capital is scaling local lending and contractor trades for inclusive household economic development and clean energy impacts. They're a national residential loan platform, or their SMARTE loan program is a national residential loan program. The Center for Resiliency and Clean Energy is building and supporting a network of community lenders committed to scaling accessible clean energy financing. So we'll share more about how that partnership has been developing in practice, but what we found is that the work that Inclusiv has been doing and the SMARTE loan program really support each other and can both benefit from partnering with each other. Okay, great. So I'll share a bit about what Inclusiv is. Inclusiv is a certified CDFI, Community Development Financial Institution, founded in 1974. We represent and advocate for the growth and success of a national network of community development credit unions. And our mission is to help low-income people and communities achieve financial independence through credit unions. So who do we represent? Over 400 credit unions across 47 states, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico. 75% of them are low-income designated. 55% are certified as CDFIs. 30% are minority depository institutions. Collectively, our member network has $207 billion in combined assets and represents 4.6 million members across the country. And so through that network, we started to realize that credit unions are really well positioned to develop clean energy financing solutions. We launched our Center for Resiliency and Clean Energy, and as Nate mentioned at the top of this workshop today, we are scaling financing solutions that combat climate change. We are bringing together a network of community lenders, both credit unions, but also banks and loan funds that are committed to and excited about improving community resilience, increasing access to affordable and sustainable energy for all people. We have three main areas of support: training, collaborative infrastructure, and movement building. And so right now, one of our most active programs is a solar financing program, which if anyone on here knows community lenders that might be interested, we do have a free solar finance program through the University of New Hampshire that folks are welcome to apply for. It's for lending professionals. Okay. And so a little bit more about why Inclusiv is getting involved in this space of clean energy. We know that community lenders already have deep community relationships. They have underwriting experience. They have existing, very engaged membership and customer bases, and many of them have the capital available to provide low-cost, affordable financing to the portion of the population that's often left out of the clean energy financing space. And those community lenders are also very comfortable and have expertise in providing loans to low and moderate income communities and communities of color. Again, the folks that are typically historically left out of the clean energy financing space. But we also found that community lenders have not become very familiar with green loan products. They don't have a lot of expertise with vetting clean energy contractors or installers. And so we discovered that the SMARTE loan program, which Madeline will provide much more information about, is a great partnership because it enables these community lenders to leverage SMARTE's work of vetting contractors, connecting community lenders with existing green loan products that don't require the lenders to learn everything about the clean energy space in order to start financing green or clean energy projects. And so I just wanted to mention a little bit about the trends that we're seeing in this space, and this is rapidly increasing basically week by week. There are over 5,000 credit unions across the US. They have over 100 million members, over $1.7 trillion in combined assets. And just in the past 12 months, they originated over $590 billion in new loans for these 100 million members. And then what we've seen is out of those credit unions, there are 252 that right now offer green loan products. We've just started to survey those and have a small portion that have disclosed their financial information. 22 of those credit unions have invested a combined total of 1.1 billion in green loans. So we imagine if we scale that across the 252, that number would increase dramatically. We also know, as I mentioned earlier, we're offering a solar lending training program for lending institutions. So we also know that there are many financial institutions already developing new green loan programs and new green loan products. So again, this number of 252 credit unions is growing. Many of them have told us that they would love to work with the SMARTE loan platform to be able to scale up their new green loan products. And this is there's just a little chart here so you can see where these credit unions that have green loan products are geographically distributed. Okay. I also wanted to mention that out of the credit unions that have green loan products, 142 of them are community development financial institutions, low-income designated, and or minority depository. So again, credit unions, particularly the credit unions that specialize in as CDFIs, low income or minority depositories, have particular expertise in providing affordable, accessible loans to low-income communities and communities of color. So we see a great opportunity to increase access to clean energy through that path. Okay, and if anyone would like to reach out or follow up with any questions, here's my contact info, and I will pass it along to Madeline.
Thanks, Neda. So IPC, for those of you who are unfamiliar, we were created in 2018. We spun out of the Connecticut Green Bank to take their more mission-oriented loans nationally to really help spread access to these types of products that are really helping people serve low-income communities. So the SMARTE loan is, sorry, hold on. The SMARTE loan is was created in 2013 in Connecticut to help solve for a number of issues. One of those issues being that homeowners are really looking to finance in this space, but they don't know who to trust, what contractors they should be working with. How do they find a good contractor? What do they install? How do they pay for these projects if they don't have money to put down for such a loan product? The lenders in this space, as Neda mentioned, many of them really want to get into this space, but they don't know how to get started. And they don't really know green consumer lending. And so they kind of don't know what are financeable measures they're really going to be saving their customers energy. And contractors in this space, we're really trying to solve for affordable financing options for small local businesses to participate in. And we really needed to ensure that whatever we designed had working capital built in to the nature of the product. So that way they could have many jobs that were being financed at one time. And then, for kind of a government perspective or policymaker perspective, really trying to create a product that can be used as a vehicle to address certain climate policy directives and goals. And so we created the SMARTE loan program to really help address many different components. So one of the things is this product can be used to help address energy efficiency and home performance goals, solar plus storage and EV charger goals, strategic electrification of heating and cooling, and really helping scale that. And I have a little case study at the end that I'm going to share with you about how we've used SMARTE to do that in Connecticut. It can be used to address health and safety measures in a home, overall residential resiliency, and this product can be used no matter the customer's FICO or income. Everyone has access to the same interest rates, and so this product can really be used to serve all homeowners in your market. And it also helps kind of mobilize the local lenders and contractors around energy policy in your state, because now they're invested. So the great thing about this product is it also helps grow jobs. So my favorite story is one of our very first contractors on our program. They were a small family-run business. It was like a 4-person shop. And by having access to affordable financing like SMARTE, they were able to grow the number of employees they had about double. They about doubled their size of their organization. They were able to serve more customers that way. They were in a really small, pretty rural town in Connecticut. And so the fact that they were able to use financing to help grow their business because they didn't have to turn down as many customers is a real success story. And they're just one example of many, many contractors who've used a product like this to grow their business. And because we are really using the lending capacity of a local lender network, we're able to leverage our private or public dollars with private capital. So for every $17 of private capital spent, we have $1 of public dollars spent to make this program possible. And so in 2018, when we spun out of the Connecticut Green Bank, we partnered with our friends in Michigan and Michigan Saves. We have a very similar loan product to Michigan Saves. And so we worked together with the help of a grant from the Hewlett Foundation to build a customized workflow management tool that's really going to help us scale this program nationally. And at that time, we actually pulled in Inclusiv as well to help us have access to kind of the right types of lenders to be successful, who would see success in this program and have interest in this program. So we've all kind of partnered together to help drive the expansion of this product. And what we've seen across many states, these are just some states who have similar loan products copied off of one another. So what we've seen is over $250 million worth of loans, over almost, at this point, I think it's about 30,000 homeowners across these three states have utilized some form of energy financing through one of these three programs. We have over 16 participating community lenders. And the nice thing about these products is that over 1,000 different contractors across all trades, solar, efficiency, HVAC, home remodelers even are kind of getting into the energy space. It allows to bring kind of everyone together under one umbrella. We've also seen excellent portfolio performance. These are people investing in their homes, and so they are theoretically freeing up capital to be able to put towards their loan payments. And we have seen very little defaults or delinquencies, which gets all of our lender networks really comfortable being in this space. The product itself was designed to be easy. Easy for homeowners because it's an unsecured personal loan. It's a very quick application process. It's easy for homeowners because it's low interest financing with flexible terms. So they're able to look at their potential monthly payments, 5, 7, up to 20 years, and compare that to their potential energy savings and really find a term that works best for them with their lender. And like I mentioned before, no matter the customer's FICO score, everyone gets access to the same interest rates. And this is all enabled by a loan loss reserve, which makes it really easy for our lenders to participate in this space. It gets them kind of comfortable with this unsecured personal loan product. So that way, if they were to see any defaults, that they have a little bit of a gap stop in an umbrella safety net to kind of protect them from some of those early loans. This loan product is designed to have over 40 different energy improvements. So heating and cooling, solar, insulation, windows, really everything from geothermal to duct sealing to advanced air sealing. If it saves the customer energy or generates clean energy, the customer can finance it. And because it's such a wide range of technologies, customers can borrow anywhere from $500 to $40,000, with 25% of the loan kind of set aside for potential barriers or things that they might need to do that aren't directly energy related, but could make it possible for them to do the energy project. So say they're borrowing $40,000, 30 of that could be for solar and 10 of that could be set aside for repairing the roof so that they could go solar. And it's really easy. This product is very easy for our contractors because we have progress payments built into the nature of the loan. They receive 1/3 of the funds upfront before the work begins, the loan closes, and then a final 2/3 upon proof of completion. So that gives them some working capital to purchase equipment. It also gives them an incentive to quickly close out those jobs as quickly as they can so they can move on to the next customer since they've already been partially paid. We qualify people in kind of 3 buckets. So the contractors have to participate in the training. They have to be properly licensed and insured, no negative Better Business Bureau rating, and no open Department of Consumer Protection investigation. Then they have to, once they're approved, submit proper paperwork and the scope of work for each job, and just maintain good standing quality work in the program. The borrowers themselves, it's a 580 FICO score or higher, debt to income up to 50%. For customers with a 680 FICO or higher, our lenders actually waive that debt to income ratio screen. They still screen for income and ability to pay, but they don't look at the debt to income. And no bankruptcies in the last 5 years. The work itself needs to be in an owner-occupied, owner-financed property. And we define this as single-family 1 to 4 residential units. And then in each new market, we work with partners to determine what the eligible equipment and technical standards should be. They typically align with the Energy Star ratings or any available incentives in the market. The product itself, we all kind of work collectively, both program staff, either energy offices or green banks or nonprofits, energy nonprofits. They work by recruiting and managing lenders into the program with IPC support and help and inclusive support and help. They qualify and oversee contractors and their application into the program, and they manage the technical review process to make sure that the equipment that's being financed meets certain efficiency requirements. The lender themselves, they're the ones actually doing the underwriting and the credit review, and since it's their capital, they're the ones paying contractors directly. And then the contractor, they're the ones really out there doing the hard work, managing the installation process, ensuring that the technical specs have an opportunity to be reviewed into the engine platform and portal, which is how we do workflow management for the program. And then kind of everyone's together on a team in acquiring customers into the program. And as I mentioned, we have this platform that we developed with Michigan State. It's called Engine. It is a secure, 100% customized workflow management platform where the lender, contractor, and program admins all have their own logins, and it allows us to work together to move a project from the beginning to the end, and it allows us to collect data monthly and from the lenders, as well as data about each home and the energy savings that are taking place. And so I just wanted to briefly talk about a case study on how we used this product in Connecticut to kind of drive some policy directives or help us achieve some of those. So we had a goal that in 7 months, we were going to use a 0.99% interest rate at 5, 7, or 10 years. The customer could choose. We bought down the interest rate to achieve lasting impacts on the Connecticut market around heat pump technology. How can we encourage people to get comfortable with heat pump technology? You know, we had a huge state target around the deployment of heat pumps, and that includes geothermal, ducted, ductless, and heat pump water heaters. And maybe even encouraging people to pair that with solar and other measures, weatherization, and really just go deeper on the energy savings in their home. We needed a way to kind of bring new contractors into this space who were actively installing heat pumps, but maybe weren't offering the product. We also wanted to encourage our contractors who were active in the product, but maybe not offering heat pumps, to really start thinking about heat pump technology. And then this was a way that we really were able to re-engage with our local contractor network and really kind of help build relationships and our customer service to our contractors. So we came up with this campaign. We worked with our contractors to market it. We did a big advertising push. And what we saw was a lot of success. So this was run in 2017. We saw a 6-time increase in overall volume and a 10 times increase in heat pump volume alone. We saw 54 new contractors come on board. Most of those were HVAC due to the heat pump technology angle. And it brought our overall total eligible contractor list up to 300 eligible contractors at that point in time. During that point in time, 85% of our contractors were using the product during the campaign versus only 60% the year before with no campaign. So then kind of as the year ended and we moved on to 2018, our overall volume didn't collapse. We saw 3 to 4 times higher volume across the board, including heat pump technologies. And we, in 2018, had over 400 contractors and then continued to engage new contractors throughout that space, even HVAC contractors, even though they were maybe not participating in that special offer anymore, now they were starting to hear about it more frequently. And what we saw, and I've updated the stats for you, is, you know, the majority of the customers were installing ductless mini splits and air source heat pumps, but there were a handful of geothermal and heat pump water heaters as well. You know, we ran that campaign in 2017, 2018, 2019, where it was hard for the Connecticut Green Bank. Their budget was swept by the state legislature, so that became kind of tricky. We didn't have a huge marketing budget. In 2020, people were back at home. Our funds had been renewed. Things were kind of picking back up in Connecticut, and so we kind of saw an uptick overall in heat pump volume. And in the spring of 2021, we tasked ourselves with really kind of doing another heat pump push because now our utility partners were also running some really fun programs that we thought we could that would pair nicely with a heat pump financing special offer. And we also knew that from our 2017 campaign, people were installing heat pumps for the benefits of cooling. And this was an opportunity to really maybe start educating people about also using it for heating solutions, so to help us further our targets and goals. And so what you see here is that we actually had 320 heat pump loans in 2021 so far, and we, you know, most of that came during our spring special offer. So we ran that for 3 months in the spring. And what we found was this was a really great way to engage our contractors, and a really great way to see success here was we actually pulled in contractors from other trades. So like solar guys, they were all about heat pumps, but they didn't really know how to encourage their customers to do heat pumps. So we started doing this is before COVID. We started doing matchmaking events and bringing them together so they could network with one another, including what we were calling kind of quarterly events, coffee and we'd have a different topic with their utility partners. So that allowed some cross-trade mingling and networking, which was really fun. And we would do road shows where we'd go and meet with our contractors and their sales teams, their back office staff, to just talk about different how you talk about financing with customers. And so that was really fun, and we've incorporated recognition programs into that, and that has really allowed us to see success in Connecticut around heat pump technology. And this was all because of the platform of SMARTE. That's really how we've used it, an example of how we've used it in Connecticut to really help us meet some of those policy goals and directives. I think that's it.
Great. Well, thanks so much, both Neda and Madeline. We'll move into to some questions, and we've got a bunch of questions already that have come in, and I imagine more on the way. So if you have questions about SMARTE, feel free to type them into the box. But let me start, and I'll sort of just open this up to either of you. The question is, what are the mechanisms to support such low rates for these unsecured loans? Is it only through the loan loss reserve, or are there other mechanisms that support those low rates?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think it's what we've discovered as we've taken this product nationally is it is a mix depending on what market you are in. So, in some spaces, we have had meetings with lenders and they say, no, we get this, especially the ones who already have some version of an energy lending program, as Neda pointed out. They don't need a loan loss reserve. They're comfortable in this space. They get it. Those are comfortable interest rates for them. Anyone who's maybe newer to the concept, they tend to need a loan loss reserve to be able to offer those low interest rates, yes.
Great, thanks. So I think in your presentation, Madeline, you mentioned that it's for FICO scores 580 and up. The question is, are you starting to use other measures other than FICO to qualify borrowers? For example, Sun Score?
No, because so SMARTE is the underwriting. It all takes place with a local lender network. And so FICO is the traditional unsecured personal lend or just personal lending or lending underwriting practice with local lender networks.
Great. Next question. Could you tell us more about the Engine platform and how does this and perhaps other aspects of your program help enable scaling?
Yes. So for anyone who's ever tried to run a program that involved maybe many different stakeholders through kind of a many-step process flow and has tried to have a smooth handoff between the different parties via email, phone, tracking it on an Excel spreadsheet, you know how easily customers can get lost between the cracks. What Engine allows us to do is has all of those parties sitting on a platform where we can all see the same information and data, and it allows us to keep track of the next stage for each customer. It creates transparency. So what the contractor is hearing from us is what the lender is hearing from us, and everyone is hearing the same information about the next step for that customer and that project. It also allows for things don't have to be an email, so it can be literally a click of button to move things to the next part of the process. It doesn't have to be kind of shuffled back and forth in an inbox. So if someone's out, for example, takes a vacation or a sick day, that's another place where it can help keep the project moving, and it feels pretty seamless from the contractor and lenders and customers' perspective.
Very good. Next question. Do you do any specific recruiting of women-owned or minority-owned business enterprises as for contractors for the SMARTE program? Or has that been done?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we have done is we match whatever that state's requirements are. In Connecticut, we have had a focus on engaging minority-owned contractors specifically, because we were able to take a look at our stats and see that it maybe wasn't as high as we'd like that to be.
Great, Madeline. Another question. Well, actually, I'm going to pair two questions. This first question is, Inclusive Prosperity Capital is a spinoff of the Connecticut Green Bank, but what's the form of the entity? Is it a fund? And where is the loan loss reserve coming from? Is that from the Connecticut Green Bank?
Okay, so there's a few components to that. Yeah, so IPC is a not-for-profit intermediary fund. So as it relates to this program, we are the program administrators of SMARTE loan in Connecticut. So we basically help the Connecticut Green Bank. Our staff runs that for them. The loan loss reserve actually comes from each state and program sponsor. So in Connecticut, it actually started off with American Recovery and Reinvestment Act dollars. Actually, I believe it still is. So that is, it's kind of up to each program sponsor and new market and new state and new program to determine how they're going to set up their loan loss reserve.
Good, thanks. Here's a question about sort of comparing SMARTE with commercial property assessed clean energy CPACE loans. Can you do sort of a compare and contrast? What's similar or different about SMARTE from CPACE?
SMARTE from CPACE. Well, SMARTE is a residential single family product where CPACE is designed for commercial. SMARTE also uses and utilizes a local lender network, and so it's their capital rather than maybe CPACE administered or administrated capital. SMARTE is not secured in any way. There is no lien anywhere. It's an unsecured personal loan. SMARTE also does not look to a savings to investment ratio like CPACE does. SMARTE is really looking just purely at the newly financed and installed equipment. Does it meet efficiency requirements? Is it considered high efficiency equipment that's being installed in a home? So those are some of the biggest differences. I'm sure there are others, but it serves a different market. It's structured completely differently, and how the projects get approved is different.
Great, thanks for that. This is a two-part question. First part for you, Madeline, and then the next part for Neda. Madeline, can you repeat the role of the state or local government entities that you partner with on SMARTE? And the second part is, Neda, can you help governments identify lenders to participate in a program?
Yeah, this is a great question. So the role of, say, like energy offices or green banks, or kind of energy nonprofits in SMARTE, typically what they're doing is they're acting as kind of the program administrator, helping to oversee our lenders and invite lenders into the space, and identify lenders who could be interested in participating in this program, approving contractors and vetting contractors to make sure that they meet those requirements, such as having no negative Better Business Bureau rating, that they're properly licensed and insured. And then they're also doing the technical approvals. So they're looking at the scope of work that's being proposed and saying that it meets, whether or not it meets the efficiency requirements. So that is typically the role of our energy offices, green bank, energy nonprofit partners.
Sure, and I can jump in for helping to identify lenders. That is definitely something that we are doing, and we are committed to being a resource for that. Madeline and I have been working on a few different areas of the country where we're SMARTE. There's a lot of interest and support in SMARTE from different government entities, and we're Inclusiv is reaching out to lenders in our network, both our membership base and those who've taken our solar lending training program through the University of New Hampshire, to share with them more about SMARTE and identify if they would be a good fit for this program. And then what we found is sometimes those lenders will say they are interested, but they might recommend in their region we make certain tweaks for the program. So there is also a bit of iteration in terms of figuring out if there needs to be any tailoring for, for example, if our goal is to reach low income homeowners, what might we need to do to make that accessible, things like that.
Great, thanks. Lots of good questions coming in. Can you talk a little bit more about the contractor vetting process?
Yeah, so I will say it's a relatively, I will say it's a relatively light touch in that they basically fill out an online form via the Engine platform. And once they've submitted everything, we just look to make sure that they, don't have any typos and how they'd like to be listed on the website, that they provided their most recent and current insurance, business insurance. We don't actually even set requirements around the type of business insurance as long as it have business insurance. And that they provide the appropriate licensing to do that work in that market. So, in Connecticut, we require that that they have the right plumbing and HVAC licensing for heat pump technology, for example. And then they have to attend a webinar training on how to use the platform, how the product works, how to talk to their customers about the product. And then we just make sure that their Better Business Bureau rating is not a negative Better Business Bureau rating, so not a lot of open customer complaints that they just haven't addressed. And then once that's it, that's what it takes. So once they're a part of the program, when they submit their projects, they do their first 3 jobs with the loan, gets inspected by a third-party quality assurance inspector who makes sure that what they installed is what they told us they were going to install, and that it was done appropriately and to code, and they're doing good quality work. And then if there are any issues that arise during that process, the platform helps us kind of track any issues that may be taking place. Along with the customer satisfaction survey, we can use that as an opportunity to also hear from customers if they had a good experience with the contractor. And if at any point we are concerned about them representing the program in any way, we're able to have a conversation with them around remaining in the program.
Good. Next question, are there different lender concerns or problems they see with the specs of project scope, assurance of financial benefits to owners, or quality of work of contractors?
Neda, I think that's a great question for you if you have perspective on it.
Neda, you might be on mute, but again, the question is, are there different lender concerns or problems with the specifics of project scope, specs, assurance of financial benefits to owners, or the quality of work of the contractors?
I think that what lenders have told us is that they are more concerned about those issues kind of outside of the SMARTE program. That once they participate in the SMARTE program, they found that that with the contractor vetting and the point in the process at which they start to engage with loan underwriting, they feel confident that they're underwriting projects that have been properly reviewed from an engineering standpoint, and that the customers are getting the value. I know that, and Madeline, I'll let you add more on this, but I know Madeline has told me in the past that if there ever was a problem with a contractor not properly scoping out a project, that contractor would kind of be reviewed, and they would, SMARTE would make sure they were a right fit for the program.
Mm-hmm. Right, and so that's the nice thing, is that our lenders don't have to do that. I think that's often, as we talk to the cohorts going through the training that Neda mentioned at the beginning, that's a concern they bring up frequently, like managing contractors, and they don't have to do that if there's a program sponsor, a program partner who understands energy and energy contractors in place.
Good. Next question. For states that already have successful clean energy loan products available in the market, would SMARTE be an appropriate product? If so, how would the recruitment of new lenders happen?
That is a great question. The answer is yes. When Connecticut launched the SMARTE loan program in 2013, the state already had a lot of really phenomenal energy financing programs. SMARTE was really designed to be kind of this comprehensive program and kind of fill some of the gaps that we were seeing in the market. And, you know, SMARTE is still very successful, even though there are other phenomenal financing programs available to contractors in our space in Connecticut. Also, you know, we are having conversations with people who maybe are administering those programs, and maybe they don't want to use SMARTE and bring SMARTE into their space, but they could still potentially take advantage of the engine platform to help them scale, because that is really designed for residential energy financing programs. Doesn't have to be specifically SMARTE or the home energy loan program in Michigan. And yeah, if let's say someone said, okay, we really want to bring SMARTE into the space, even though there's existing energy financing programs, we work with our partners at Inclusiv to identify lenders who might be interested in this space, and kind of work collectively as a team to help start some of those conversations.
That's right. And I'll also add that we see a lot of places where there are robust clean energy programs. We see community lenders having trouble getting into that space. Mm-hmm. So they'll say, we have the capital to finance these projects. We have the large membership base that wants to do home energy upgrades, but we can't get installers to call us back because they're already serving a segment of the population that's, active. And so a program like SMARTE can really help to connect, like I've said, several times, not to sound like a broken record, but connect those who have trouble accessing the clean energy space, and connect the low-cost capital to the installers and the folks who want to be doing the home energy upgrades.
Thanks. Have you done any programs? I think, Madeline, you mentioned that that this was targeted for the residential market, but have you done any programs targeted at renters or landlords for energy efficiency in rental properties?
That's a great question. So what I would say to that is, in Connecticut, our largest lender felt really comfortable basically taking the SMARTE loan program and pivoting it and kind of mirroring it as an offshoot loan program for landlords. They basically call it the landlord energy efficiency loan or energy loan. And so it's very similar terms. The underwriting's a little different, but it's very similar terms. They don't see a ton of interest there, but it does give them a place to serve those parties when they are interested and do raise their hands. In other markets that are kind of trying to solve in this space, IPC has worked really closely with, folks, really encouraging them to investigate pay-as-you-save as a great option for renters and other people who maybe don't fall in the single-family homeowner bucket.
Very good. There's a little bit of confusion or some more questions around the funding source for the loan loss reserve credit support, where the program exists. Can you share more about that?
Well, I guess what I will say is that in many ways, this is one of the biggest hurdles we have to the expansion of this product. So we have had many conversations with energy offices and green banks around the country who are interested in offering this product, but absolutely know their lenders need a loan loss reserve. And what we can do is kind of collectively brainstorm some potential sources for that if you don't have American Recovery and Reinvestment Act dollars, since that was over a decade ago that those that program was passed, or that act was passed. So, that is one of the biggest hurdles, I will be really honest with you. So yeah, in Connecticut, it's American Recovery and Reinvestment Act dollars. In other states, we've explored foundation money, especially community foundations, other kind of interested parties who maybe want to participate in this space but don't want to maybe actively be running these kinds of programs or responsible for these kinds of programs, but want to support these kinds of programs, really help identify some potential sources that way. But yes, I would say that is the biggest barrier to new programs.
Very good. Next question, what ratio of energy savings to payments is targeted? How do you keep contractors from overselling energy upgrades?
Well, so since we don't look at energy savings as a requirement for the product or for the loan itself, right? That's not a qualifying part of our technical review. What we do look at though is kind of the average range. Like it's the same staff who look at every single project as it comes in. And if something seems kind of wildly like an outlier outside of the scope and the range of what we typically see, our team will follow up with that contractor and just get a better sense of why they're charging that much. And do our best to usually it's some sort of error, but I think the fact that contractors know it's being looked at very closely does keep them in line to some extent. I will say, we don't dictate what the cost should be, and we try really hard not to explicitly tell the customer they should work with someone else. We don't want to, have a company lose a potential sale. But we do work really hard to do contractor education. So really reaching out and kind of digging into why it's costing them that much. And then reminding them that they can't charge more just because the customer is financing.
Good. How do you find your projects to support?
Like the list of eligible measures? I'm not certain I understand that question.
I think it's what kinds of outreach exists to ensure to customers on the program.
Like
in other words,
customers.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we do kind of it's a collective effort. So, our lenders, as Neda said, many of them have an existing membership base. They have relationships with their customers and members already because they're community. They're very community based, right? It's credit unions, community banks, local CDFIs. And so, that's one avenue that customers may hear about the product from. The other one is, the Connecticut Green Bank, for example, and any of our partners, we'd support them in this. We do some social media advertising, some advertising on Facebook, for example, some targeted ads, Google AdWords. We have some expertise on how to do that successfully at kind of an affordable way. But really our primary source of sourcing customers into the program is our contractors. So making sure that our contractors feel comfortable talking about financing with their customers at the point of sale, making sure that they're comfortable and they understand how the loan product works, and they're not confusing the customer in any way. Just making sure they're really confident in talking about SMARTE at the end of the day with their customer. That is the primary way we source customers into the program. And so, as I mentioned, with the heat pump case study, one of the things we were doing really before COVID was we were going around the state of Connecticut, sitting down with these guys at their morning sales team meetings and really just walking them through how to talk about it, letting them ask us questions, having them give us scenarios that they've encountered where maybe they weren't comfortable, and like helping coach them through that. Really building relationships with contractors at the end of the day is the primary way we source customers into this program.
Great. Next question. A two-part question. Could you talk a little bit more about the technical project approval process? And then as a follow-up, who directs individual projects through the process? Is it the homeowner, the lender, the contractor? How does that work? Or through the platform?
So the technical approval process, the contractor submits, they fill out an online form in the Engine platform that says, this is the technology I'm installing, down to the make and model number. And depending on what it is, it either clearly meets the efficiency requirements or does not. Oftentimes we just look at the AHRI ratings and specs, and that usually tells us thumbs up, thumbs down. So it aligns with the utility incentive programs that exist for each piece of equipment. And so our team are people who are very comfortable reviewing kind of a wide range of technologies. And again, we're not looking at kind of before and after savings. We're just looking at, does the proposed equipment meet is it considered efficient? Does it meet the efficiency requirements? So our team is really just looking at the SEER, the EER in a perfect scenario to ensure that it is considered high efficient and meets our requirements. You know, if there's an instance where maybe there's an incentive review beforehand, like in Connecticut, the solar incentive review happens first before the project is approved. If it has the solar incentive approval, it's good to proceed. So there's a couple of different ways our team can do that. And it kind of, again, depends on the market and what's available in that market or what programs currently exist in that market. We want to build off of what already exists. What was the second part of that question? Sorry, Nate.
Well, I think the question, and maybe to some degree you provide an answer, but who directs, you know, is it the lender, the contractor, the homeowner, who directs exactly.
It is the program staff. So we have, it is 1 full-time employee, 1.5 full-time employees in Connecticut currently who are moving the customer through the process. So it's really, we're training the contractors on how to talk about it with their customer so they get the kind of ball rolling. The lender does their underwriting pre-approval part. The contractor kind of starts that process in Engine saying this is an approved customer and we want to close this loan, they're ready to go. And then from that point forward, kind of keeping the project moving is a team effort, but really the one who's kind of pushing it along is the program staff.
Great, and we're getting close to the hour mark here, and there's a number of questions we didn't get to, but I do want to ask just sort of a final question, and then I'll turn it over to both you, Neda and Madeline, just to provide any last parting remarks before we close out. But the last question is well, first a comment about someone's excited about this product, and what are the next steps? How do they connect with you to pursue this?
Yes, they can just email me directly, and I can set up a meeting to kind of walk through it in more detail with them. Happy to do that.
Great, and we'll make sure that we provide Neda's and Madeline's email if that's okay with both of you.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, yeah, again, we're getting close to the end here, and I want to thank both you, Neda and Madeline, for your presentations. I also want to thank our audience for the great questions, and apologies for not getting to all the questions. Before we close out, first Neda, and then Madeline, do you have any just a sentence or two, any closing remarks you want to say before we end?
I think I just wanted to mention that the training I referenced earlier, we are accepting applications, and I was going to put the link in the chat. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. I'll put it in the chat, and hopefully it can be shared out. But yeah, thank you everyone for your time and attention.
Yeah, we'll make sure that goes out when we send out the slide deck, Neda. Madeline, to you.
Yeah, so one thing I always like to tell people is, you know, don't be afraid to utilize the existing resources available to you. You know, reinventing the wheel is hard, and there's really no need when we've had so many programs that have that exist, and you can really avoid the pitfalls that we all encountered by kind of reinventing the wheel ourselves. So yes, please use the resources available to you. We're happy to help, even if you decide you don't want to use the SMARTE loan program, but you even just want to have this conversation with us. At the end of the day, we just want to see more capital deployed to help make these types of projects possible.
Great. Well, that's a nice note to end on. Thanks again, and thanks to our audience. Samantha, over to you to close things out.
Thanks, Nate. So usually now at this point, I would tell people about webinars that we have coming up, but we don't have any currently scheduled. We are working on a bunch, so don't panic. But we have none of them scheduled at this time. Several coming up though. I do want to remind people that we did record today's webinar, and we'll be posting slides as a PDF and a recording. We'll get that out to you within 24 hours, and we'll also send out that link that had been mentioned. So thank you everyone for attending today, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Bye-bye.